Congratulations on the film. I had a great time because I think nowadays it's very important to explore defining moments in our lives. We all have those. So it was very easy to feel projected in the story with all the characters. I was wondering, what's the origin of the inspiration for the story?
It started from something my mother had said. She was sick years ago, and she had made a comment about that she had literally what Bert says in the movie. I had 9 months to be born. I'm going to take 9 months to die. And literally, it was such a profound thing. And she died 9 months later, that I thought it was such an interesting thing that she had gone into, reflecting on her life and trying to connect with people that she wasn't as connected to. And that's really where it started. I've always enjoyed the kind of those intertwining stories, films like Nashville and Love Actually. And I thought it would be, the interesting thing with defining moments in general is that we don't know what they are until they happen. We also don't know if they're good ones or bad ones, or, we just know that they'll, at some point it'll pass you by before you notice it. And so I just wanted to tell that story. I just wanted to make it a very, fun, personal story, and that's kind of where we started.
Yeah, it's really cool. So Eric, congratulations on the film. I thought your character was very, very, very warm. What did you say?
Old.
No, but also
Sorry,
very.
I'm obsessed with being old these days. Yeah, no, he is. He is a warm guy. But that's Stephen writing that. I'm actually not a very warm person at all.
I can tell you can be you're difficult.
I'm very difficult. I'm very demanding. I can be really snide and cruel. So this was a real challenge for me, this part. And no, Stephen did a wonderful job of writing it, and I was totally attracted to that aspect of it. And it was a wonderful experience. And
was it complicated for you to understand the process, because the doctor goes through all these changes from total health and being very, very a point of reference for many people, not only his daughter but the patients and other guys, to becoming a person who needs help in a way?
Well, again, there's the sense of defining moment. What is a moment? I mean, is of course who's in the, we're all sharing a moment here, and we'd all have a different experience or a different reference or a different explanation of the moment that we're all sharing. So I think that the aspect of playing a man that is developing dementia, that his brain and the organ of his brain is deteriorating. I don't know, maybe being an actor is good training for that in a way, because basically what you're doing is you just accept. Doing this part, it seems to me that if you're playing a person with dementia, in many cases, he just accepts the reality that he's perceiving, and no matter how outlandish that may seem to other people, to him it's real. So it's just really investing your own belief in a moment. And as I said, as actors, we do that all the time. When we're doing parts that you go, yeah, I'm not going to comment about what this guy I'm playing is doing. I'm just going to be him doing it. So it was great fun to do that. I mean, it was, because it wasn't, there's many ways you could portray this. It wasn't written that way, and it served a certain function of and a tone and a kind of reality that this movie wanted to deal with. And I had a great time, and it was great fun doing it. I'm grateful to Stephen for writing it.
Great. So, Paulie, this is
the way he did, and of course there was a great cast, and we have to talk about Bert. He was just the best. He was just the best. He was a really famous guy that was so down to earth and welcoming and ordinary, like another actor. It was a great thing. It was just like being in a rep company with another actor, and we'd all been together doing it. It was great.
Great. Thank you, Eric. So, Paulie, this is a defining moment for me, because I think it's the first time I'm talking to you. So this will be always a point of reference in my life now.
Your life will not be the same.
It'll change forever.
No, but why not? Why not? I mean, this is a positive defining moment.
Yes,
Right?
for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell me a little, how did you approach the daughter who's very giving, but at the same time she has her own life, and she's a writer, and but she feels responsible for daddy and all that.
Yeah. You know, thinking about it after the fact is always interesting, because with my own life, I have a father who is ex-military, bit strict, doesn't suffer fools, he's this guy, and yet he is the most deeply caring, deeply loving man. So I never felt, that I wasn't loved, but I would love to have this kind of relationship with my father that she got with her father, because I don't get a lot of time. And I live in a different country as well than my father, so that I think was is almost like a dream situation, sadly, not the dream ending that you'd want, but she did get her heart healed by the journey that they took through this film.
So through acting, you get to live lives that are not necessarily yours, but they can complement your life. So maybe it was a defining moment for you to do this part.
Absolutely, it was. I mean, it's not a small thing to get to work with a legend, to do this movie, and I mean, Burt Reynolds too. No, I mean Steve. I was going to do a joke like Stephen, but I didn't do it. I held back. I couldn't quite get there. No, but anytime you do a movie, it's a gift. As an actor, to be given a role. I think we sound so silly saying that, but it is true. That there are so many people who want to do this role and probably deserve to do this role as well. And I got to do it, and I got to work with Burt. I got to work with Eric. I got to work with Stephen and Tammy and everyone else in this film. And so it is a defining moment. Anytime we had a baby of a movie together, and that's a big deal. So that's for sure a defining moment.
Throughout our lives, we go through defining moments. Some of them they define who we are in the future, or who we become. But do you think that the most impacting defining moments are the toxic ones or the positive ones? There's some, I don't know. What do you guys think?
You can learn to get out of the toxic ones. Those can be the most defining. If you can learn to recognize the positive ones, then those can be the most defining. That sounded really smart. Did that not sound smart?
That is absolutely very philosophical.
Nice. Okay, memorize that one.
Yeah. Beware the defining moment beyond the defining moment, I think, is what they're saying in a way. Yeah. No, I mean, we tend to think of defining moments and, point them, you think of something that happened, but basically the defining moment only becomes, emerges as being such a thing when subsequently what goes on, you know what I mean? It's only the first moment of a whole different story that, yeah, I think it is wonderful to think about moments where you think that things change, but that may not be quite as simple as that. I think that the real thing that I like is what you said. It has to do with how we can watch a film and make connections in our own life about it. Like you're asking questions about what are defining moments, and I'm sure you had some that yourself that you'll get reminded of in this, and that's highly therapeutic of art to be able to do that with people, that they can get a chance to kind of go, oh, wait a minute, yeah, that was a defining moment. Wait a minute, that turned out, that was challenging, but we overcame that, or whatever, And then, of course, there's defining moments where you just have to kind of accept. And that's the ones that I'm scared of, I think, more than
yeah, me too.
And I'm of an age where any moment could be the next one where you just have to accept. And I hope I'm trying to practice that. So accepting, I don't know how well I'm doing it, but
I think you're doing great. Look, you're working, you're fun. You're like, yeah, it's, but for me, the experience of watching the movie, I loved it because it was very light, but it was deep at the same time, but without depressing. I didn't get depressed. I just, I just saw myself there, and I started questioning my life and things that I went through, and defining moments that are mostly all of them positive. But Stephen, can you tell us a little what the story is about so we can use your soundbite to edit the piece?
To me, very simply, you know, Defining Moments is about that moment in your life that changes you from who you were to who you'll be. And I think that's the simplest way of putting it, because I think we have moments that put us on, as Eric's saying, puts us on a pathway. And I think that a lot of times we don't always see it until it's too late. And I think it's important to try to be present enough in your life to know that when something is happening, and to recognize it for what it is.
Cool. Polly, I will, if to play a character like this, do you have a word that it comes from? From your rational approach to her, or your heart, or I don't know. How do you do?
Bit of all of it. I think I was lucky because Bert and I sort of fell into the right dynamic of our relationship and bonded so well so quickly that I didn't really have to act that very much. We just had this sort of little love of father and daughter right away. Like I was enamored with him, and I feel like he liked me enough. And so we didn't really have to act that. Then we just had to, once you get a relationship in acting is the hardest, I feel like, you know, if you can get that relationship down, the deeper level of the work is done. Then you care about that, you know, everything that happens feels real, everything, you know. And so when you're going through it, that loss at the end feels, even though it, you know, it hadn't actually happened in real life, even though it did after, feels very real when you bond enough. And yeah.
It's interesting that this is his last film, Bert's last film, and I think there's one with Tarantino in which he will appear in, I mean, it's gonna, before he left us, so it's very symbolic too, I don't know. So you were there, yeah. I
don't know what I'm allowed to say. Stephen, are we allowed to say at the end or not really?
No.
Okay, so yeah, so it was
that's the best. People are not going to be able to stop themselves from watching this now. That's been such a kind of tantalizing. Can I say what it's the end? No, you cannot say what is the end. Okay. People now have to watch.
Sorry.
No, that's fine, because no, we were talking about the fact that Burt Reynolds passed after this film.
Yeah,
it's important that well, it's sad, but he moved on at a transition, like we in California, there's a transition at 82, and yeah, so that was something, I guess. No.
Yeah.
Well, and also, you know, who knew? You know, he didn't know this. We didn't know this. But also that he approached this as, you know, like still a great, huge love of acting and performing and working with other people and imagining it, and just the straight artistic approach to it. This wasn't a movie star, you know, killing time for whatever. This was a guy that just loved to do it. And he loved to have other people doing it around with him. And so you could talk to him like, you know, you could talk about the scene, you could talk about what we're trying to do here and how do you see it and what you see it, and things in our own lives that, you know, come to it. And you know, complain about the writing and the directing and all that, you know, and the things that actors love to do when they're together. Yeah, he was wonderful. And to think, as it turns out, this was one of his last movies. It was, you know, I go, geez, that was a great way to go. That's a great last movie to have, because he didn't know it was going to be the last movie, and he didn't treat it like anything other than another chance to express his great love of the art form that he practiced. So it was tremendous. And he was a great guy to be around, generous to a fault.
You know, he actually was trying to get me to write a Western for him, because that's what he wanted to end on, was on a Western. And because he never got to do the Tarantino movie. They had just done the table read, but he passed before they did it. But he had called me and said that he needed to, because he started on Westerns, and that he wanted to have that Western to do it. But I'm kind of glad that, you know, in some ways, if he didn't get his Western, that he got a chance to go out on a type of film where I think people are going to love his character, and I think they're going to, you know, it's a good one to finish on.
I also love the other stories.
His heart was, sorry. He also, in this film, you know, he's played a lot of tough guys, cool guys, but Burt has a huge heart. And I feel like this movie allowed us to see that a little more, you know, this big hearted person that he really was. Sorry, I just.
And also vulnerable.
Vulnerable, yeah.
Vulnerable, which is, yeah, we didn't see him so vulnerable when he was younger. But I want to ask, so Eric and Polly, do you think that your stories within the film are the coolest ones, or what? Because
totally, my story was really the coolest one. They say Burt Reynolds is the star, but it's not true. I am the star. No, it was a cool story. It was a real cool story that I had to do. It was really fun. It was.
But
really
the other
fun.
ones were cool, good too, no?
Yeah. No. It's a wonderful script, you know, and the intertwining of these stories, and thematically they how they tie in together, and just the interest of these lives that we get to see in these kind of 2 hours is, you know, and the things that happen to them. It's just, yeah, it's a fine piece of work. It's a fine piece of work.
Yeah.
I think I got to be, you know, to work with Burt and have that wonderful opportunity. But also I think it's not something we see every day in films, where it's a father-daughter dynamic, and you have two examples of two very different fathers in this movie. You know, you have Eric's reaction and how he handles these, you know, his own issues happening to his own mind and body, and yet his daughter's life is like exploding on all fronts, and he's juggling it like a superhero. Really, like, the response is so good. He's such a good dad. And then you have this other dad who's not as warm and fuzzy, but he's got this big heart, and he loves so much, and he's trying to do the right thing. And I just think that's such a lovely, new, refreshing thing for an audience to see, are good dads doing good work with their daughters, you know. That's what Stephen is, by the way. You know that, like, Stephen is like a super dad and has daughters. So
yeah.